Hello and welcome to Escaping Kasterborous, the podcast where we rewatch, reminisce and review Doctor Who from 2005 to present. My name is Rich and I'm joined by the only thing in my life that is mauve and dangerous. It's Amy.
I'm not mauve.
What colour are you?
I'm definitely dangerous, but...
You have to give yourself your own colour code to be dangerous. What colour do you count?
Lilac.
Lilac. You're really going for the word that you say weirdly.
Yes, everyone's now going to be like, why don't you say lilac? Yes, I know, it's lilac. I say lilac. Let's deal with it.
Let us know in the comment section down below whether you say lilac with a U or lilac with an A.
Well, everyone's going to say lilac, aren't they?
Yeah, because they're right, Amy.
Well, I'm not, so deal with it.
But welcome to the day that your childhood fears return to you in swathes, because today it is episode number 9, aired on the 21st of May 2005, The Empty Child. I was very, very, very tempted to add the F word in between empty and child, because, oh my god, I hate this kid.
Are you my mummy?
This podcast is over. Thanks for listening,
well,
everyone.
Bye.
I'm going to go cry in a corner.
See you next week.
See you next week with the Doctor Dances. Hopefully I'll have stopped crying by then. But This is where Doctor Who really stuck to me, because it scared me so damn much. Though all the fun stories about me being scared will be for next week, because I relate them more specifically to the Doctor Dances, and I will be covering that next week. What about you?
See, I don't remember finding this episode so scary. Like, I can understand as an adult woman why it is scary, and actually I do find it like inherently creepy. Like I said to you when we were watching it, it's that thing of like it being repeated over and over and over again that sort of is like, you can't get anything but this word out of this child, or this phrase out of this child. And I think that's what makes it so kind of weirdly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like, I don't remember being frightened. I think, I don't know why, because it just didn't feel quite as much of a threat as like some things do, like Cough Cough the Weeping Angels, which was my absolute horrific nightmare of an episode that I experienced, but we'll get to that. It's so I don't know, I remember watching it, but I remember not finding it that scary. I think
I was the complete opposite, as I have said on this podcast and on multiple times on the WhoCulture YouTube channel to just people when talking about Doctor Who. This was
just generally,
this is to this day gonna be the sort of definitive part of my childhood that scared me. Like, we all have those things we go back to, that you can, like, the scariest moments of your childhood. Like, for me, one of them was stupidly watching Shaun of the Dead on Channel 4. I can't remember how old I was, but the scene when Matey gets pulled through the window at the pub and gets his intestines ripped out.
Yeah,
no thank you. Hot Fuzz, first time I ever watched that, terrified me.
I mean, I can see
hooded
why.
figures, beheadings, Tim Messenger getting impaled by a goddamn church spire.
Church spire, yeah. That is the one bit of that film that sticks with me. Yeah. And I've only seen it once.
You've only seen Hot Fuzz once?
Yeah, when you showed it to me.
What? Right, we need to rectify this. We're going to watch it again because I love Hot Fuzz. But those two things, along with watching Torchwood, when I was probably too young to watch Torchwood,
as we've already
discussed before, that and The Empty Child were the things that scared me the most as a kid. And going back to this episode now, 15 years later, I would have been 10 when this aired. We're 25 now.
Oof.
As much as it doesn't scare me, it's still creepy. There's something about... There is partially the fact that I obviously associate it with basically childhood trauma.
Yeah.
But going back to it, and as we said last week, it's cool to go back and watch this and analyse the whole feeling, the tone, the cinematography, the music, even down to like the colour palette, everything just accentuates the fear.
Creepy.
The creepiness. Yeah, that's what it is. It is creepy. You have the outright scary moments, or the scary moment that we will get to. But otherwise, it's just the atmosphere that creeps you out so much. And
it is sort of during the height of the London Blitz, so I suppose that's kind of like the perfect backdrop for something that is like imminent. The setting kind of itself,
death. I mean, there is nothing I think more haunting to me than the sound of an air raid siren. So. Absolutely. Hearing that,
I'm very glad we never had to live through that,
and hopefully we won't have to.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Lol.
But there's so much about this episode that works so well, and there's a good reason why this episode. I don't know whether it was The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances as a whole. Oh no, sorry, it was the two-part story got the 2006 Hugo Award. For the best dramatic presentation.
What's a Hugo Award?
No idea, but I know that it's something important.
It's an
and
award.
Doctor Who has won quite a few of them, and Empty Child was one of the things that won.
Fair enough. Speaking of cinematography, some of the shots in this episode...
Yeah, there's the one shot that always stands out to me is the shot of the Doctor looking at the phone in the hallway of the house, and Nancy stood in the background.
It's kind of at a wonky angle.
It's like a wonky angle. I think the field of view is slightly wider.
Like a wide-angle lens.
And it's a really sharp shot. Like when you look, because like I said, we're watching the sort of remastered inverted commas Blu-rays that were recent. I say recently. This is a couple of years old. This particular release is the Steelbook with the art by whatever her name is.
It's the most recent
release of Series 1, I think. They might have done a rebranded one with the new branding and stuff. But anyway, it's a beautiful shot. Rest of
some of the shots, like the one that I said to you when it's over Albion Hospital Gate, and it sort of comes from like the top left, pans over the name of it, comes all the way down, so you see Eccleston like walking back through the gates, and then comes down to the floor. Oh, I was just really nice, oh my god, it's so pretty.
Albion Hospital is also another thing that's a self-reference, because obviously Albion Hospital is where Tosh was. And
I did think I recognised it.
Albion Hospital isn't real, by the way. I'd always figured it was a real hospital in London, because it gets name dropped twice. Obviously, I know it's just reusing the sets, kind of, even though you don't really see the Albion Hospital sets or the rooms like you do in Empty Child as you did in Aliens of London. But I just thought it was like a landmark. It was just like, hey, we're British. Hey, we're in London. Obviously, this actual building, I'm pretty certain, is in Cardiff.
Probably.
I thought it was a real building, but alas. But
it is not.
It's not. But let's talk about the big man at the top, not Russell T Davies, but Mr. Stephen Moffat.
Oh yeah, Stephen Moffat.
These two episodes.
Good stuff.
I was thinking about the second word going to be. Good grief, I was thinking.
I was going to say something slightly naughtier than stuff.
That took me a second then, thinking, hang on. Oh, right, okay, I get it. This was Stephen Moffat's first contribution to New Who that wasn't The Curse of Fatal Death, which I'm pretty certain you haven't watched either.
No.
It's a shame.
I mean, I might have done.
You may have done. It's a comic relief special from like, I don't know whether it's 1999 or 2001. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I probably haven't watched it then, given
but it was
that we
made.
were 4.
It was made for comic relief. It was 1999 with Rowan Atkinson as the Doctor, and it's really funny.
I might have to watch it afterwards.
It's very good. And obviously, Russell must have said. I mean, I think Moffat was very much one of those people that during the hiatus period where he was just always present. Like as we've said, so much of New Who, especially the Russell T Davies era, is made up of people who were basically just fans during the show and then during the hiatus, who were pining to get it back. So they figured, you know, who's better to bring him to help bring the show back than these people who've been, for lack of a better phrase, gagging for it. So they got they got Stephen in to pen these episodes, and this was the start of a relationship between, I think, the viewership and Stephen, prior to him getting the keys to the show, where whenever we see written by Stephen Moffat come up in the titles, you go, oh good, I'm gonna probably crap myself and cry myself to sleep.
Blink as well?
He did Blink. He did all sorts. I'm trying to think of the specific ones that he wrote prior to taking over the show. Let me just. I'm just going to very quickly double check. Oh, he did. Empty Child, Doctor Dancers, Girl in the Fireplace, and Blink.
Right.
So he didn't...
Oh, Girl in the Fireplace is a
Girl
good
in the Fireplace
episode.
is incredible. Again, another episode that won... I want to say it won a Hugo. Oh, no, it didn't win a Hugo.
I really like that episode. That's one of those episodes that I sort of forget about, and then it happens, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good episode.
Blink got some BAFTAs, surprisingly. So
it took me a good few watches of Blink before I could watch it and not be absolutely like scared out my pants. Do you know what I mean?
So we always had this really positive outlook of Moffat, especially when he took over the show, because as soon as the BBC had said, or it was the rumour that Russell was leaving and Stephen was going to get the keys to the show, everyone was really excited, and then it kind of went a bit weird with Moffat at the helm, but we'll get to that in series 5.
I mean, I don't know, I don't hate Moffat's era.
I don't hate it
at all. Like, Matt Smith is personally one of my favourites. Like, you know, I'd say Tennant is probably my fave, and then it's like Matt Smith. But Matt Smith's my Northamptonian homeboy.
Yeah.
Not the point. Anyway. But I didn't, everyone's sort of like, oh, Moffat did such a bad job of this, that, and the other. But I actually, like, up until maybe, like, Moffat's last series, or, like, some of the Clara stuff, or, like, I didn't hate any of it. Like, I quite enjoyed most of it.
I think it was through the middle of his run was where things got a bit ropey. I think he managed to get it back on track by series 10. But anyway.
But then, as I've said this to you in the past, like, obviously, Russell T Davies' era is just king.
It's the best.
I don't think you can top Russell T Davies' era, ever. But, like, obviously, if you write a couple of, like, really good episodes like Stephen Moffat wrote, like The Empty Child, Dr. Dances, Blink, Girl in the Fireplace, you're going to have that kind of, like, reputation. And then if you take over the keys, you've then got to churn out that kind of standard all the time, and that's not going to happen.
The workload is different, and I think that's what threw him off so much. Like there are some stinkers from the Moffat era, some real stinkers. But I think the expectation of him when he got the keys to the show, because when I found out it was going to be him, the guy who wrote Empty Child, I was like, oh, good. A, Doctor Who's going to scare me, and B, it's going to get really dark, and it didn't. It became a rom-com for 2.5 seasons. But
sadly,
maybe. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. This is Moffat. I still believe, apart from Blink,
I mean, it's sort of related.
Yeah, these 2 episodes, along with Blink, basically anything written by Stephen Moffat during the Russell T Davies era is absolutely perfect. It's incredible. The way that the narrative goes through The Empty Child. A funny thing that you said, Ames, just as we were getting towards the end of the episode, was how you felt like this episode played out like a video game.
Oh yeah, I turned to you. I think it was when he was in the hospital.
It was just as the doctor was going to the hospital,
and I was like, this reminds me of a video game, because it feels like you've got the main kind of sequence, or like quest, if you will, of kind of like discovering who the child is and what they're for, and you bump into Nancy and she's like, oh, go to this area of the map. I have a quest for you,
Doctor. Do you accept the quest?
Before you complete your main mission, here's a side quest. Go to the hospital, speak to the doctor, and then you get there, you speak to the doctor, and then stuff goes wrong, and then you're having to deal with that. And it's kind of like what was it I said to you? It's like an action adventure
sort of thing, yeah.
Akin it to. It's kind of like you've got like a bit of a linear story-ish thing, but like a couple of like diversions here and there that keep the story going when you don't. And I was just like, I don't know why.
It's like
it just feels
God of War PS4 for Doctor Who. It's like it's like a linear story, but it's got some slightly open world elements, and that's what's happening here. I'd never thought that out of the 2 of us, the one of us who doesn't work for a gaming YouTube channel,
I would be
making the comparisons to video games.
I do watch a lot of video games.
I know you do, I know.
Like, okay.
And you with me, you know.
I kind of have to.
Yeah. But no, you're right. There is this very much a straight path of like, the Doctor turns up. I find it amazing how naturally Moffat takes this, like, the Doctor chasing a mauve bit of junk through space and eventually through time, and it manages to balloon into this incredible, like, ridiculous storyline, but none of it feels pointless, none of it feels like bloat. It's all just so well refined and feels so natural. And it's like, the thing that I've always found fascinating is how long has Moffat potentially been sitting on this concept?
Oh god, yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know if I ever had, or if I have a concept for a Doctor Who story I would love to do, apart from a sequel to Remembrance of the Daleks in some way. Because I love it so much.
Because it's Daleks.
I know exactly how I'd start it, but like,
that's not the point.
No. Like, how long has he been sitting on this idea that he just wants to take further? Like, he might have had like 10, 15 years to just be sitting on this concept for a Doctor Who story, and then he gets given the opportunity to do it.
He probably already had it written. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, genuinely, he might have just had this like this concept lying around for all we know.
Also, do we think, just as a slight side point, that if Moffat hadn't sort of produced this episode, that we would have still been introduced to Captain Jack? Because obviously we know that like Captain Jack was kind of like a sort of, not pre-planned, but like a character like his, like, but would have been, so say, like in you know, the process of writing the series and the overall arc, that they would have, like, Stephen Moffat obviously comes in and goes, hey, I've got these characters, and they go, oh, we could use that character to be kind of like an overarching character in the plot or what have you. Like, I don't really know how it would work, whether they had a plan for him or whether they didn't. But like, Captain Jack, like, do we have Moffat to thank for Jack, or was Jack
I'm just very quickly checking this now.
Because if we do, thank you, Stephen Moffat.
No, it was he, in naming the character, it was Russell, so I think it is a Russell creation. So, because this actually ties into a question that we've actually been sent. So if you do have any questions regarding upcoming episodes of the podcast, we record this usually on a Sunday afternoon.
Today it's a Wednesday,
not so much,
but that's not the point.
we get a bit caught up with doing stuff. Usually we record this on a Sunday afternoon, so if you've got any questions regarding the next episode along, so obviously if you're listening to this now, if you've got any questions for the Doctor Dancers and we haven't released the episode yet, please let us know. You can either leave it in the comment section below if you're on the YouTube channel, or you can tweet us at WhoCulture, or using the hashtag Escaping Kasterborous, or both, and we'll hopefully get around to your questions, because Liam Hall on Twitter asked, do you think Captain Jack was planned to be a recurring character before these 2 episodes? And the answer to that, Liam, not Jack, the character's called Jack. The answer to that, Liam, is yes. He was planned to be in the episode. Whether it was like specifically going to be this episode he'd appear in, because usually,
or whether it was like a
usually the showrunner will establish the arc of the series and then perhaps pass off particular sort of narrative beats to a specific writer. He'll say to Stephen, here you go, do what you like, but you need to add in this character doing this, doing that, doing the other. So
here's a character called Captain Jack. Have fun.
Yeah, enjoy.
Ooh, I will.
He's basically like I don't want to say hypersexual, because that's more of the Todd from Scrubs, but he is definitely a character that will hit anything that moves.
He just likes sexy things.
I don't blame him. And if John Barrowman came to me and said, "Hey, you want to get freaky with the Jackster?" Then
what?
I'll be like, yes, let me hark yourness. I don't know.
No, this is how.
Absolutely dreadful. But yeah, Captain Jack arrives, and can we just take a moment to appreciate John Barrowman? Just
yes,
a moment of silence, almost, just to sit here and yeah, do that. I love Captain Jack, and it's kind of weird seeing him like not know the Doctor and Rose, because like he has this personality where he just clicks with people. You see this as the show progresses when he meets Chantho in series 4 or series 3, and he's like, "Hey girl, I want to hit them whatever antenna you've got on your head. Let me flick them."
You are so gross.
I'm sorry. I just want to flick some antenna, okay?
No, stop.
He just gets on with everyone, and so the rapport between him, the Doctor, and Rose like kicks in straight away. Like even towards the end of the episode when they're just in the hospital before the cliffhanger, he's already like chatting to them like he knows them, not like they're friends, but he's like super like clear with them.
I suppose as a con man though, you kind of have to be.
Once you've been caught out, you kind of have to be. But I think
it's not even so much that, but like he walks straight up to the Doctor and he's like, "Hello, I'm Jack Harkness. Pleased to meet you." You kind of have to be that kind of like forward.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be a con man. I mean, I'm not a con man, so I cannot confirm or deny that that's a thing. But like, I feel like in that kind of sort of situation, you would have to be very forward because you want them to buy your thing.
Yeah.
So I suppose he would be, but I know what you mean. He's very much just like a people person.
Yeah. And even like his relationship with that whoever it is, the sergeant, the other army bloke we see at the beginning, he actually does reappear later on in the in the Doctor Dances.
Right.
But like with him, and there's Jack looking, zooming into Rose's butt when she's hanging off the balloon. Excellent bottom. And this guy's like, okay. And
Thanks.
then Jack turns around, you have that fantastic shot of him pulling a smile as he looks over the camera. And I love that it's just like, they've shot this in such a way to be like, this is the guy you want to bang. You want to hit that. Look at how sexy he is. Please appreciate the sexiness. So when Rose gets swept off her feet, almost quite literally by him, you can see why in her eyes she's like, holy crap, Jack, do me. Like, this is the guy. And then when...
Because I turned to you, didn't I? And I was like, I find it funny how they framed it almost like a kind of, we should know who this is, but it's not like you should already know who this is. It's like, you will want to know who this is.
It's almost like a really subconscious moment of, as the camera slowly zooms in, there's a white vignette and Jack's just there like looking really sexy and all that.
With hearts all over his face.
Yeah, basically. They really play up to that, and they kind of introduce Jack's character as being like you were saying, like he plays being straight really well, but it's so obvious from before he even meets Rose that I'm guessing he's pretty open, because he says to the other army guy, you've got an excellent bottom too, and he slaps him on the ass. And bear in mind, in 1941, he would have not got away with that.
No.
And the way
this is kind of the definition of, I suppose, is it pansexual, where you just kind of are attracted to anything you're attracted to?
There's you don't quiz me on like sexual preferences and stuff, but I'm pretty sure pansexual is more like a fuck it, whatever.
I will touch anything that moves.
Yeah, and then I think when I said about hypersexuality, I'm pretty certain that's what they kind of, the lack of a better word, diagnose the Todd with in Scrubs, because he is just like, I'll hit anything. I'll have everything. And when Jack slaps this guy on the ass, he has this sort of greeny look on his face, and it's kind of like he's totally hitting that. He is totally hitting that, and we know that being gay back in the war isn't okay, simply down to the fact that there's the Torchwood episode where Jack goes back in time, meets the actual Jack Harkness, and he shares a kiss, and there's that. As soon as there's that like sniff of him being gay, a lot of people get very concerned. So you can tell that just even with this army bloke, Jack has just already worked this magic as a con man.
I mean, but also as a beautiful,
but also as someone I would totally smash given the option.
I mean, I could talk about Jack for a while.
As she takes a seductive drink out of, puts a straw around her lips. I know you can't see this, but literally, just as Amy said that, she was like, oh yeah, I'll have a bit of Jack. And then as she gurgles her drink. As she's there.
I was actually just thirsty.
It's almost that thing where you just sat there sucking the straw and there's nothing. You just get the noise of no liquid because you're just completely lost in his eyes. Gimme. And it's so interesting seeing Jack not so much not himself, because he's trying to hit that as well as be a con man. So the con man bit obviously gets dropped very quickly with his character, which is good. But the bits of, hey girl, I'm making a move here, that's still so there, so present. But seeing him talk to the Doctor and Rose and not know who they are, it's like, even though we know this is his first appearance, I'm there going, Jack, they're like your bezies, man. Come on.
I was going to say, they become like family.
Yeah, I know. And I love Jack so much, hence why when it came to series 12,
good character.
We were squealing when he appeared again.
Except for the fact that it was only 5 minutes of fan service, but we'll
come on, Chris, bring him back again. Maybe he'd be back in Revolution of the Daleks. Maybe he's going to be the Doctor's cellmate or something. That'd be great.
You would hope so. Also, I'm sorry for people's ears during that little thing I just did, because my levels were through the roof.
Oh dear. But there's not there's so much we can talk to about Jack for now. I think most of our conversation about Jack may come in the second part.
Yeah, because he's much more prominent in the second part.
Yeah, he's basically there the whole way through in the same. The Doctor, Rose, and Jack are finally all back together for the rest of this episode, the rest of the next episode, the rest of the story, I should say. But JB asks, just to sort of wrap this little section about Mr. Jack up, asking, what do you think is the best Captain Jack appearance in Doctor Who?
Ooh, you might have to remind me of them.
Well, I think I know what my favourite one is, and that's mainly because it ties into Torchwood. It's when he finds the Doctor for the first time after the events of Series 1.
Oh, when he's running towards the TARDIS.
The Doctor Detector goes off in the Torchwood hub, and then he sprints to the TARDIS and follows it through time and space.
I actually watched somebody did like an edit of that
they
on
put
YouTube
the
where they
scenes
mashed
together.
the two scenes together, and it's really cool actually.
Obviously not gonna spoil anything about that if you are going through this fresh, because Jack does appear in series 3 and 4 and then 12. But then he did a load of Torchwood.
Series 3 was that episode, yeah.
Those 3 episodes, yeah.
Yeah.
Series 4 was the finale, the 2-part finale. Stolen Earth and Journey's End.
Was that the one with Martha?
No, Donna's the companion, but Jack's there to begin with Yanto and
I see. Right,
Gwen.
no, so I'm confused about like which series is which companion, because obviously you said to me the other day that Rose is only in it for 2 series, and I was like, she's in it for more than that. No, right? But yeah, so series 1 and 2 is Rose, 3 and 4 is Martha.
No, 3 is Martha, 4 is Donna. Yeah.
She only did 1 series.
Tennant only did 3 series. Matt Smith technically only did 3 series. Capaldi only did 3 series.
So series 3 is the Martha
Utopia
thing, that, and then series 4 is the
Stolen Earth, Jenny's End.
Donna, thing. Right, okay, fab.
What would you say is your favourite appearance then?
I don't know. I quite like the end of this series where he's without too many spoilers, the Trini and Susanna bot, and he's like, and they're like, you have
That's a
gun?
compact laser deluxe. Where were you hiding that? Again, no spoilers.
Yeah.
But I completely agree.
I mean, I do quite like. I do like him coming back in series 3, like, because when you see him, you're like, oh my god, yes,
he's back, my boy.
But yeah, I think probably the end of this series is actually like, I mean, like I said, I don't really remember his performances in like the later on bits. Like, I've obviously rewatched Doctor Who like numerous times, but it's one of those things where I don't really hold on to that information. Like, I have too much else going on in my brain to remember like the random episodes with Captain Jack. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, Jack is amazing, and it's if you are watching this for the first time and you're starting to like him, oh boy, you've got some more stuff to come.
You just wait.
Which is really exciting. Let's talk about the sort of the threat of the week. So this whatever thingy has landed in the middle of London, and we meet the titular child almost straight away.
Yeah.
Straight away the child's voice is echoing through the streets of London, and the thing I find amazing about this sequence with the Doctor going into the speakeasy, it's basically a speakeasy, even though the UK didn't really have speakeasies.
I have no idea what they are, so sure, we'll just carry on like I've...
and ask the question, if there's anything falling from the sky, and it's the wall, they all start laughing. How the Doctor, he's so laser focused on working out what this thing is and making sure it hasn't hurt anyone and getting it out of there or whatever. He's not taken the time to look at the TARDIS controls and realise where he is.
Yeah. But also, I find it kind of funny how... he says, it fell about a month ago. And yet he said, at the beginning that they were 40 seconds from crashing in the middle of London. So the thing crashes, and then by the time it takes him to get there, it's already been a month?
I think...
How does that
When he
work?
says 40 seconds for the centre of London, I think he means the time between where they are now, where the thing is now, and it hitting London. But because it's jumping time tracks, he was never going to, come out of the vortex at the exact same point that the Tula warship was.
Oh, right, that's the bit that I got confused on. I was like, how do you 1 second be chasing something and then another second it's a month later?
I think Rose even says that, why is, how were you a month out? And he said it was jumping time tracks. It's not easy to follow.
Right.
But yeah, and then we meet Nancy, played by Florence Hoth.
I love her.
So do I.
I said to you, didn't I, when the episode came on, I've always loved her for some reason. I don't know whether it's the cute Cockney accent or the fact that she's just an adorable little button of a person.
Thing is, you say adorable little button, I say kick-ass bitch.
She's both. Like, absolutely both. She's like a kick-ass bitch wrapped in an adorable little button. I just love her. I don't know what it is about her. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's because she's technically, like, the centre of the episode.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, obviously you get the kind of... Like, obviously the Doctor and Rose and Captain Jack are, like, that's the story you're following. But she is in it a lot. Like, a lot. And that's why I think it's kind of like a video game, because it's kind of like your main, like,
she's the quest giver.
Side. Yeah.
The doctor's there, the TARDIS phone is ringing, he looks behind him and there's this girl with a big orange exclamation mark above her head and she's glowing. Like,
go and talk to Nancy.
Come over here and press square, Doctor, come on. Yeah, I love Nancy, like what she does as herself in the sort of the narrative, the narrative of the world, if that makes sense. Like what she's doing within the war is helping these kids, and the Doctor obviously deduces, who did you lose? My brother. It's kind of heartfelt, and I don't know like the real specifics of the Second World War, but whether that was the case in the Second World War of kids running away from being evacuated and coming back to London to just live on the streets and stuff. Like, I have no idea whether that actually happened.
Idea.
But I mean, people in the comments who may know the war better than us, let us know.
Potentially, it probably did.
I'm sure it did. It would make sense that kids being taken out of their homes.
Yeah.
Would be very concerned, because I'm not sure every single kid who got evacuated ended up with a wardrobe with Narnia in the back of it. So,
what? Yeah.
Yeah. So I love her character in the way that she sort of disappears and reappears and sounds like she knows more than she does. And I think she knows so much. But I think when, like, Dr. Constantine, who we'll get to, talked about her, I think he plays her up as someone who knows, like, everything that's going on. And in reality, she's only hiding one thing, which, again, we won't spoil.
But it is kind of like a key
She is integral. The whole episode revolves around her. The whole story
Hence why I said
revolves
she's
around
kind of like
her.
the main character. I mean, you meet her basically straight away. Like, there's only kind of like a few minutes after the start of the episode where obviously the Doctor leaves the, like, club, speakeasy, whatever you called it, thing. Finds a cat, by the way.
Yes.
The cutest little black and white cat thing. It's obviously a cat. It's not a cat thing. And she's literally just there. It's kind of like, oh, who are you? Hello. And then she's just like kind of pivotal to. Yeah. I suppose it's kind of like she doesn't really know why what's happened has happened, but she knows what's happened. Hence why she kind of comes over and it's like, don't answer it. It's not like really ringing.
It's not that she's like, I know exactly what is going on, but just don't get involved, mate. Just go away.
But the fact that the Doctor turns up and is kind of like, I don't know whether he helps explain stuff a bit for her, and she's kind of like, oh, okay.
I think because he's reading the situation how she's seeing it, because you can tell that Nancy's a very, very clever young woman. So with him saying, I want to know how there isn't a phone, gets a phone call. Like, he's not just saying, what's going on, where she could just go, nothing, mate. Go on with your day. Go get in the shelter. Stop whinging. He's relaying things in the way that she thinks, which I think is why she takes notice and doesn't just keep like pieing the Doctor off. But also, very, very, very quick segue about the Doctor and the cat. Why is it whenever you talk about Doctor Who and the cats, people only think about when Tennant had kittens in Gridlock in Series 3?
Oh, yeah.
Can we please take a moment to appreciate Eccleston holding a cute black cat?
I mean, literally, you stand there talking to it, and it's
with little
just
white
like,
paws.
Hello, little kitty. I completely forgot about all kind of instances of cats in Doctor Who, even Gridlock. But I just turned around and I went, oh my God, it's a cat. Yeah. And I was just like, look at the little kitty. These
are the noises Amy makes when near a cat. And we have a cat.
Or dogs.
Cats or dogs. We have a cat that lives next door that sometimes finds a way into our garden. And Amy's just thinking, oh my God. Beautiful.
Her name is Jelly Bean. Anyway, not the point.
Shout out to our neighbours if you're watching and realise, wait a minute, that's our cat.
Talking about Nancy.
We were talking about Nancy and how great she is.
She is great.
She sends the Doctor off to see the Doctor, which I think I very vividly remember hearing that and thinking, no. Series 1, they're not going to do a multi-Doctor story.
No.
like 2/3 of the way through series 1, are they? Surely. And obviously, no, they don't.
I don't think that was even kind of like a thing.
It wasn't even going to be a
thought.
thing, but I think just the fact that she goes, the Doctor, and the Doctor's there going, wait, what? Like,
also, who plays the Doctor? Not
Richard Wilson.
Because I feel like I recognise him.
Oh,
from
you
a
will.
lot
He's
of
done so much. He's a very, very established actor. Like, obviously, John Barrowman is like pretty damn big now, but back then, I'm not entirely sure
known, was he?
how big he really was. But I know that
Not
Richard
known
Wilson,
enough to be like, oh my god, it's John Barrowman.
Richard Wilson did. He's done a lot of stuff. He did Merlin. Did you watch Merlin?
Laura did. I didn't.
Yeah. Just having a look at his. What films has he done? Nothing we'd really know apart from Romeo and Juliet and Sherlock Gnomes.
Oh Jesus!
I've watched Romeo and Juliet.
It's actually not awful.
It's
but
not
like
terrible.
I watched it a good few years ago when I was probably about 12.
He's an old man, bless him. He's done quite a lot of stuff. He's done Father Ted. He was in that. But yeah, most people will know who he is because he's done so much. And he plays Dr. Constantine, who is this, doctor at Albion Hospital who has managed to work out what he's seen. He's someone, again, kind of like Nancy, who's seen the impossible and just goes with it.
Accepts it. Kind of like Rose.
Kind of like Rose, exactly. He sees all these injuries, physical injuries, as plague. I love that line.
When he was just like, oh, don't touch them because it's like you'll get infected. I just was like, cough, coronavirus, cough.
That's how we tell people to social distance. Just like, if you touch them, you're going to grow a goddamn gas mask on your face. Okay?
Jesus, can you imagine if that was like the social distance or you'll turn into this? No,
but yeah,
thank you.
Dr. Constantine, chatting to the Doctor, realises that because Nancy sent him, that he realises that this is a guy he can talk to about all of this and not be weirded out by it because he knows something's going on. And he has the part of this episode that it's like the definitive point of season 1. It is the single scariest moment of the entire series.
I love it.
And that is when the Doctor realises all of these people, the gas masks, it's all flesh and bone. This is how they are. Because he says to Rose and Jack, after this point, human DNA is being rewritten. So when he realises that these people are creatures, they're not people with injuries, they are literally a new species almost.
A new being.
And he does the whole right down to the scar on the back of the hand, and there's the shot of him looking at his hand and there's a scar on it, and it's like, oh dear
beautiful
God.
Shot. That depth of field is literally like, it literally just kind of encompasses his
There's a tiny
hand.
little focus pull on it, and it's absolutely beautiful. They do a lot to like fill the frame at like slight angles. This one's not as as skew if as the first as the phone shot, but that, there's that realization, and then the Doctor Constantine realizes because he starts coughing and stuff, and he's starting to change. Nancy says it best in the next episode, something's forcing its way up your throat. Yeah, and he says, like, you need to find Nancy again, and I need to tell you this before I
get to the room
in any other medium, it'd be before I bleed out and die, I need to tell you what you need to do or whatever. And then
here's your next quest.
He proceeds to grow a gas mask out of his mouth and on his face.
It was the eyes that got me. The eyes went from like normal eyes to just these bulgy circles, and I was like,
it's hearing his speech change. He's getting more pained, and then he goes, "Mummy, are you my mummy?" And it's like, because you don't hear anybody else say that at this point until him. Even when he wakes up the corpses, the zombies as they're probably best known, they don't say anything. They just sit up and lie down again. He's the first person to say, "Are you my mummy?" apart from the child. And
it's so creepy the way he does it, because it's kind of like he's
like
saying
he's
it
pained
through like choking almost, and it's ugh.
And then the transformation happens, and the Doctor just stands there like.
I mean, it would be the sort of thing that you just couldn't take your eyes off.
No,
like
you can see this kind of disgusted calculatedness, and then there's us just going, like that's like I said, even though it's been so long and I'm much more accustomed to weird shit like that now, that scene still makes my skin crawl.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, I said to you, don't like modern Who. I say modern Who. Obviously, this was modern Who, but like, you know,
post Russell T Davies era
Who. You don't really get these horrific transformation scenes anymore. Like, what I want to see is somebody transforming into a disgusting monster. Like, you don't get that anymore.
This was as close as you got to like body horror in Doctor Who. There are some other moments like that. Series 4 has another moment that you could kind of be similar. Night Terrors in series 5 or 6, I can't remember exactly which one it is, has a transformation scene that's a bit creepy. It's not as like gruesome as this, but there's stuff similar to that. But yeah, you're right, Doctor Who is missing that kind of give us those things that are going to scare kids.
Yeah,
like, because that sequence, as much as it is kind of tame to other stuff we've seen, that was so horrifically terrifying.
I mean, in
as
the context of the episode especially.
Yeah, like the idea that if you touch him, because as much as it's known that you touch the kid, you end up looking like that, but how does it happen? Here it is. And the thing being forced out of its mouth and blending with the lips and pushing his nose down and the black like coming up his face, and then, as you say, his eyes bulge into these like glass discs.
Oh, it's just so creepy.
I had just an irrational fear of gas masks. I remember going to a war museum with school and just seeing a gas mask on the wall. Because that gas masks had a bunch of different designs. They didn't all look exactly like they did in The Empty Child. But seeing a gas mask was like, no, I'm out.
No, I'm done. I'm so done.
And it's horrific, that sequence. But it works so well to really hammer home that threat. Because like you said, you're creeped out by the kid's repetitive dialogue. And then when you see what happens to you,
that's when it becomes
the gas mask is fused to the flesh. Just the word flesh is so grim.
It's not skin, it's flesh.
It's flesh. And then you see that happen and you realise this kid comes near you. Is it the same for all of them? I'm guessing so.
Yeah, well, I mean, he says, doesn't he? He says
flesh,
to Rose, you know, what happens if you touch it? You're looking at it.
Yeah. So that sequence is horrific, and that's the only time we see it in full. There's a glimpse of it next time, but you don't see that happening constantly. You don't hear it. Actually, no, you kind of hear it happening as well.
I mean, I suppose it's one of those kind of things they don't overdo it. Like with
I was about to exactly say, yeah.
In the Slitheenes, when they were constantly unzipping their forehead, it was like, we get it. Like, we know that this is how they transform. Whereas this is kind of like, you see this really horrific sequence once, and you know the threat exists. So it's like,
it sticks to you more if you see it once or twice versus seeing it every time it's supposedly going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's like that scene. That's why, as I've said, that's one of the most iconic scenes of Doctor Who in Series 1. Maybe even in New Who overall. That transformation sequence is just so horrifying.
I mean, I said to you at the start of the episode, because before we started watching this, Rich goes, "It's more dangerous," and I was like, what? And then obviously worked out he was quoting the episode. But I sort of said, like, I remember the episode as kind of like a whole. Like, obviously I remember the basic plot of like The Empty Child being like, you know, spoilers. But the one bit that I sort of do distinctly remember is the doctor in the hospital surrounded by all these gas mask things and transforming. Like, if you sort of said like what happens in The Empty Child, I'd be like, oh, the doctor, weird, creepy. But I probably wouldn't really be able to tell you much else that happens other than kind of like, I mean, now I would, obviously, because I've just rewatched it, but like, you know, after watching it sort of 3 years ago, it's one of those things that's like, oh, I know there's a gas mask kid, and I know that like the doctor gets creepily transformed, and I know that Rose flirts with Jack a lot. But like, I wouldn't be able to tell you like Nancy's quips, like who she is as a character, like, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's what, like you said, it's one of those scenes that sticks with you because it's one of the scenes I actually always remember from it. Yeah.
And yeah, that whole sequence is fantastic. We've got a question here from Hannah Forster, which is interestingly something I was actually looking for in this rewatch of the episode, which is when watching it, I tried to see if the hospital doctor had the scar from the start of the scene or if he'd only developed it before the close-up shot. Now, it's never really explained as to when the infection will take over. He doesn't really say. He talks about how it's spread throughout the hospital and that like one of the last things he's saying before he transforms is there are isolated cases about London. It's never overtly explained as to how long it is before the transformation happens. It's explored next week. It's explored next week about how the child, the top of the food chain, for lack of a better phrase, has some sort of power control over these zombies, but whether he has any kind of play in the transformation sequence, we don't know.
Because I was thinking the exact same thing. I was watching it and I was thinking, I wonder how long it has actually been since he touched one of them. Because obviously being a doctor, I don't know whether he touched a lot of them or whether he realised sooner, because obviously, and then just tried to avoid it. So obviously he must have just like caught one of them or something. Like I wonder if it was just before like the doctor went to see him, because obviously Nancy says you need to go and speak to the doctor, but she wouldn't know that he was sort of halfway through transforming, would she? Or like, you know, so I reckon it was one of those things where he maybe has touched them like say an hour or so before,
maybe quite soon, but
the doctor.
I want to say that I think you can see a tiny glimpse of it on, because it's his right hand, the one he uses for his cane.
Yeah.
I feel like you see a really, really brief glimpse of it, maybe. It'd be something I have to go back and check, like frame by frame. But I think the idea is that the scar has always been on his hand since he's been appearing in the actual show. Like when the doctor meets him, he's already got the scar. So I can't tell whether whether Hannah means whether it's like a production gaffe of like they didn't put the makeup on his hand until they were going to do the close-ups,
like
or whether it's literally a case of it like appears on his hand. Like imagine the Constantine like puts his hand to his hand and then sort of goes, oh god, it's there now, oh no. Or whether it's been there the whole time. I think it's been there the whole time.
I personally do think
because
it's
because he's coughing before he's even sat down. I think he realizes that he's going to change, and he's probably quite thankful, probably why he's so open to the doctor, that somebody else who's got a rough idea what's going on has the opportunity to try and continue whatever he's trying to do, whatever he's trying to work out what's going on. He has somebody he can say, this is everything I know, but in literally however long, I'm going to be completely useless. I'm basically going to be dead.
Because I mean, I've always loved that God, I can't speak. I've always loved that throwaway line where he says, oh, you don't sound well. And he goes, oh, dying, I should think. It's like, I'm sorry, what? You're just so casual about this.
I used to be a father and a grandfather. Now I am neither. Oh, it's so sad as well. Like, I try to make them comfortable. And he's like, he's just trying his best in a situation where he's got no idea what to do. He's a doctor.
Poor man.
He's going to have to, he does everything he can. And to see where things go from here, it's, it's okay.
Bless him.
But that's the sequence that leads into Jack meeting the doctor, and then him revealing it's all a con. I find it cool that like Rose just goes along with the whole time agency thing. Just like,
I sort of feel like I think she maybe kind of knew, not new, like obviously she's, kind of new to the whole thing and she might not know everything, but like, I feel like maybe she had some sort of inkling that he was kind of wooing her to try and get one over on her. Like she obviously wasn't, she was fully invested in the wooing, but like she wasn't so invested in the whole bargaining thing, hence why she was like, I'm sorry, were you talking? Like, she had no kind of, obviously she's kind of conning him, he's kind of conning her, and so it's like a big old kind of like circle of just like, oh, what's that? You want me to go and take you to my leader? Okay,
let's go see
my leader, Mr. Spock. Yeah, of course we'll give you the money for the ship, lol. So it's like, I feel like she kind of has that attitude of just like, I know that you're probably like, I'm not really interested in what you're doing. We're not going to buy anything off you. Like, so I suppose like, in a way
I'm a bit
they
in
kind
too
of
deep now.
him.
Yes, let's go find the doctor. That's why I'm going to name drop him a lot. To be like, yeah, there's another person here, there's another person here. He'll know what to do. And then lo and behold, like Jack just comes out and says, yeah, I'm conning you. Everything's fine. I have nothing to do with this. Oh God. We've been cornered by gas mask zombies.
Oh no.
Whoopsie doodle. And that's where the episode ends, on a cliffhanger with Nancy stuck under a table with the child inside the room, who can close doors with his finger.
Yeah, that's never really explained.
Like, that weird sound effect of and it just closes the door and it's like, oh, okay. Like
I don't really get how that works. Like I don't know if it's kind of like a telepathic field.
I think it is. Like I think it's. We can talk about it more with like the explanation to everything next week when the episode's been resolved. I think it's something to do with what happened to Jamie.
Right.
So
and his, quote unquote relationship to his sister.
Yeah. That's probably how it's explained. And yeah, Nancy's against the door. The child's walking towards her. She's going, "Oh no, I'm going to become one of them."
And then it's
the Dr. Jack and Rose are being cornered by lots of gas mask zombies, including Dr. Constantine, who's transformed, and they're going, "Oh no, I'm going to become like them." And then it ends.
It's one of those cliffhangers that's like, oh, I wonder how they get out of this one. It's like, they're obviously going to, but like, it's how that is like I love how they escape it. Like, I think it's quite cool. No spoilers, obviously, but like, it is one of those kind of cliffhangers where it's like, we're in the middle of the series. Like, we all know you're going to survive. But...
It's Doctor Who. We all know they're going to survive. And thankfully, the next time trailer is after the credits, which may have been re-edited pretty quickly because I'm pretty certain that the the next time after Aliens of London is like straight after the episode ends. You get the Doctor Who logo come flying past, and then the next time starts. And I'm pretty certain that was criticised back in the day because
a lot of people don't want to know what the next episode
they don't get given the option
gonna...
to go. I'm not going to see this. I'm not going to watch. Not going to look. They play this after the credits. Of course, we watched it again because we know exactly how it plays out.
We know what happens, and it doesn't matter. But
it's an exciting next time, but it's a fantastic cliffhanger at the same time, and I love it for it. And I remember watching it through the first time and thinking, like, being so paranoid that I was gonna have to watch that transformation again this episode because they're getting cornered, and then it ended, and I'm like, oh, thank God, but also, damn, I have to wait a week to see what happens.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Damn.
It's always the waiting. I hate like having to wait for another episode of something you really enjoy. Like, I think that's binge culture for you now, though, isn't it? Like, we're so used to having Netflix and like Disney Plus and like, all these kind of other streaming services that are just, it's all there. But like when something releases weekly, it's great. Like, obviously I love the anticipation.
You pace yourself with it and it lasts longer.
Yeah, and it is that kind of thing of like, oh this is out, I've got another episode of this to watch. But also it is that kind of thing of like, God, I just want to watch it now. I mean,
it's actually quite nice because we've actually had that with this podcast. We've had people say to us that they really, really enjoy it. We had a tweet only the other day, I think a guy and his son watch it, listen to it together.
I don't know whether it was a guy or a girl, but
somebody,
a parent and their son tweeted us saying like they're rewatching, or they're introducing their son to Doctor Who for the first time, and they're rewatching 9 together, and that they found the podcast, and that this was going to be like a great way for them to kind of like listen to us talk about it while rewatching it with their son. And I thought that was really nice.
It's really nice. Cute. Yeah, and I've got a few people I know who are watching the episodes with us with the podcast, and they're going, I just want to keep watching, but I know that if I do, I'll have to wait for the podcast. I don't want to try and do both at the same time. It's just like, God damn it.
I mean, lucky for us, it's Wednesday, and we'll be watching the next one probably on Sunday.
Yeah, we've
only got like 3 or 4 days, but
and so have you. So you haven't got much longer to get to wait until you get to the next one. But to wrap things up today, I've got 2 more questions.
Blimey.
One of them is another from JB asking if there's any monster you think is scarier than the Empty Child. For me, that's no.
I mean, Weeping Angels for me, but like like I've already said, they were always kind of the ones for me who were like absolutely cacking myself. Like I just distinctly remember watching that episode, and literally for about, I must have been probably a solid month afterwards, just not wanting to blink like ever, like at all. And just horrifying, absolutely horrifying. So that would be my answer for that one, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's still the Empty Child. There is one other enemy in Doctor Who that scared me as much as the Empty Child, which I kind of forgot about when we were talking about this last. Yeah, you'll find out.
Oh, no, I want to know.
You'll find out when we get to it. That stuck in my head as much as the Empty Child, because as I've said this before, the Weeping Angels didn't do that to me.
Oh, but another, I just hated them.
Another
like
enemy.
The first episode, anyway. Like the rest of them.
We'll get to just literally crapping on the next 3 episodes that are fully dedicated to the Weeping Angels and how much they shouldn't have ever been made. But we'll get to that.
The only other monster that I potentially think has that kind of scare factor, and it comes back to the same thing, I've said this to you already, Rich, but like it comes back to the same thing of just that repetition over and over and over again, is Silence in the Library with the Vashta Nerada.
That's what it is for me.
Oh, it is that for you as well.
Who turned out the lights? Just no. The
it's
skull
just that
inside
light
the
turning on
helmet
and the
and sort of shuffling around saying, hey, who turned out the lights? Absolutely not.
It is the Vashta Nerada, isn't it?
It is Vashta Nerada, yeah.
That's one of the kind of main enemies I remember, because it's like, don't touch the shadows. It's such a non-palpable thing to be able to have to avoid. Like, shadows? How can you avoid shadows? Like, and then the whole thing of like having two shadows as being like the kind of like realization point of like, uh-oh, you're infected, whoops.
Yeah, it is quite scary. That's the only other one that really got to me. Like I said before, the Weeping Angels back in 2007 for some reason just didn't get me as much. I think they were like jumpy. I think for me, the thing that scares me more personally is stuff that sticks in your head. A jump scare doesn't.
No. See, I hate being chased. The thing for me is like, literally, if I'm, say for example, I'm watching someone play a game and they have to run away from something. You're watching me playing Dead by Daylight. I will squeal like little baby pig because I hate being chased. Like, being chased is one of the most awful. I don't know why. I just hate it.
I was going to use this opportunity to plug myself. I was streaming Alien Isolation a while ago during May for St. Jude Play Live over on Twitch. Twitch.tv/RichieIsLive. I stream 3 days a week. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I'm allowed to plug it because hey. And Amy was watching in the next room and I was playing Alien Isolation, which I'd never played before. And I wasn't that, because I've never played it. I've never really dug deep into the game, but I know the mechanics of it. So I'm just kind of like, oh no, I know it's there. And it wasn't getting me as much as I thought. And then in the next room I can hear Amy squealing because you're watching me. And then all of a sudden you see like a tiny breath of the alien, and I just hear from the next room because Amy's like seen it and she's going, I can see her doing shaking it. But yeah,
I can't do it.
I can understand that, but that's what we'd say to for your question, JB. And finally, from Seto Kaiba on Twitter, I hope I haven't completely butchered that.
Apologies.
They ask, what do you think about the line, "Are you my mummy?" We'll get to that next week, specifically for me, being echoed by future doctors, i.e. 10 saying it in Poison Sky or 12 saying it in Mummy on the Orient Express.
Oh, I love it. I love it when they kind of flash back to that little, like, "Are you my mummy?" And it's like, a self-reference.
Yeah,
like,
self-reference
I find it really funny.
But
because it's kind of like, that is something that, like, you know, we've all kind of experienced. But also it reminds you of stuff that you've, like, sort of forget. Like, as you get through, like, the later series of Doctor Who, I find that you kind of forget a lot of the earlier stuff.
It's why when we've been going through this series, watching like Father's Day, we've forgotten so much about it. There's little nods that remind you of what was before. But like, you're saying that in such a like a almost nostalgic way. For me, it was like, you know, David Tennant's wearing the gas mask in The Poison Sky, and he's like, "Are you my mummy?" As a joke to the unit general. And I'm there going, "Oh yeah, I remember that. That was when I couldn't sleep." And
I loved it. I just kind of like, hey.
Like when 12 did it in Mummy of the Orient Express, which is obviously a lot later, I was like, oh, that's a good joke. But back in series 4, when 10 said, "Are you my mummy?" I was like, nope, I'm still not over. I'm still not okay.
I think it's the fact that it was with the gas mask as well, because like in Capaldi, when he says it on Mummy on the Orient Express, which I actually quite liked as an episode.
I think it's a great episode. Yeah,
he kind of says it like in jest to the fact that there's a mummy and it's like, "Are you my mummy?" Whereas Tennant said it with a gas mask on, so it's like, oh god, no,
please no. Oh. So I think it's cool when the show references itself, but for that line specifically, more so series 4 than series, what was it, 8?
Whatever it was
for Mummy on the Express. I think it might have been 8
or 9.
I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever.
Yeah,
but that was that. So that has been part 1 of this 2-part story, The Empty Child. Ranking out of 10, Amy?
I'd say it's a good 8. I think the reason I've not gone higher is because I know what's in the next episode, and so that would kind of be like, if it was all in one, so like it was a 2-hour special, then I'd say it was like probably like pretty up there. Like, I'm not sure if I'd give it a 10 maybe I would, because like it's one of those that's like really, like you said, sticks with you. But I'd probably maybe give it like a 9.5 if it was like a whole thing. But like I'd say this episode on its own, an 8, just because like it's the precursor to what's coming next. But the shots are beautiful. The story really like introduces the characters. Like the characters there's so few characters as well. That is one of the cool things about this episode. It's another one of these does not much, but does so much. And
it's such a big setting. But it doesn't try and introduce loads of characters. Which you've got the kids, you see them once in this episode, and you see it once in the next episode. But it's telling such a big story on such a small scale, and that really works. It goes to show what Moffat can do when you don't give him an entire series.
What would you rate it?
I'd personally either rate it a 10 or a complete nope. I'm probably going to go for a complete nope out of 10.
Complete nope, which is higher than a 10.
Yeah, exactly. But that has been episode 9 of Escaping Kasterborous. Let us know what you thought about The Empty Child, either in the comments below, or you can find us on Twitter at WhoCulture. If you've got any questions regarding the future of the series, or more specifically the Dr. Dances, please let us know at WhoCulture on Twitter using the hashtag Escaping Kasterborous. But until we see you again, which won't be very long because, we've recorded this quite late this week, have a fantastic rest of your week and a weekend. If you want to find me on the old socials, you can do so on Twitter. I am at PickupChangeToe.
And you can find me at Ames_Elizabeth.
At. There are 2 ats in your name. You're super exclusive on Twitter. You have to put at in twice to find Amy.
At Ames_Elizabeth then. There you go. Fixed it.
But until we see you and continue our romp through the Second World War, take care of yourselves, and we will see you very soon.
Goodbye. Signing off.
Signing off. Goodbye.